Hello and welcome in this overview of Xtreme Reshade for Iray Uber. In this video, you will see how to apply the shader, use the shader rotation to be able to rotate the shader with the angle you want, to scale the shader, meaning both tiles simultaneously, how you can easily decrease or increase the saturation, or use other effects which can be more complex. And finally, how you can adjust red, green and blue channels above their usual limits, as well as the lightness of the shader with dials. So let's work with this very simple scene. First, I want to work on the background, so I'm gonna hide the two figures in the foreground. Then I select my background surface, okay? Make sure that it's Iray Uber, even if you can try and use it on other type of surfaces, it might work, but it works on Iray Uber. It's made for Iray Uber. And in the content library or where you installed your product, you are going to click on Auto Apply the right shader. Alright, it will apply one of the provided shaders, choosing the best for you. It takes 1 to 5 seconds per surface to be processed, so the more surface you have, the longer it takes. Once the shader is applied, you will see the new name of the shader used. The new properties here, which are tiling properties, translation, rotation, scale, and color properties, saturation decrease, saturation increase, lightness, control of the red, green, and blue channels, knowing that here the saturation can be replaced by other effects. The translation here is not a great feature, but the rotation and the scale are. For the rotation, it means that you can enter the angle of degrees in degrees that you want for the rotation of the shader, and it will rotate of this exact angle. Okay, let's say 45 degrees, here you have 45 degrees, 90 degrees, you have 90 degrees. Okay, 30 degrees, you have 30 degrees, that's super easy. And this is the scale of the shader, okay, so you can increase or decrease the scale as you want, okay, in a single dial, whereas initially you had to change simultaneously the horizontal and vertical tiles. You can also, it works in conjunction with the tiles. It means that here, if you have 2 and 1, when you scale, it will keep the proportion of 1 and 2, okay, it keeps the same proportion that you set up. Okay, let's go back to 1, 1. Alright, so this was for the rotation and the scale, the angle of rotation you want, and the scale, a single dial scaling the current tiles proportion that you have. Now let's go for the colors. For this I'm going to show the figures again. Now I want to work on this figure, this second figure, this being the reference, let's say, and in order to be able to compare. So I select everything here, okay, in the scene and as surfaces, and in the content library I'm going to auto apply the right shader. So here I change the viewport style so that it goes a bit faster because it's approximately, I don't know, it depends on, I would say, 4 to 7 seconds per surface to be processed. So I paused the recording while the new shaders were applied on these surfaces. Okay, you have a notification message saying that it is applied, and we are going to come back to our initial shaders. For now, it's still working. And when the process is completely finished, you come back to your original Iray preview boards. So here you should see no or almost no difference between the original elements and their transferred versions with the new shader, except that at the top here you now see new shaders, okay, depending on what were the original surfaces. What we can do now is, let's check that everything is selected here. Yes, it's still the case. we can play with the new color, so saturation, lightness, red, green, blue, dials. Just as a demo, I select also the background plane, it's funny. And let's go for the saturation decrease. So if I increase the dial of saturation decrease strength, you'll see that these elements, hair, dress, background, and skin, but it is not as visible, will be less saturated. Okay, you can compare with the background. Now, at the end, at the max, everything is grayscale except the skin. The reason why is that most of the color of the skin comes from translucency and SSS. Okay, so if you have a look at translucency here, you just have to lower the weight of translucency, I don't know, down to 0.5 for a low translucency, and you have a white, a desaturated figure. If you find that it's too light, it's too white, you just have to decrease the lightness. Okay, maybe not that much. Okay, and it goes more black and white. If you want totally black and white, you cut off the translucency, okay, and just adjust the lightness to your needs, okay, and go to a black and white figure. Of course, you're not forced to saturate or desaturate all the surfaces, okay, you process the ones you want. Now let's go for an overview of saturation increase. So this is the other step. I put this to 0. And increase the saturation. I'm going to increase it with the dial 0.5 first. So here you see the dress. You can compare the two dresses, the two hair, and the two skins. The skin gets more saturated, mainly compared to what it was just before with 0. Okay, because here the skin is lighter. Okay, because there is less translucency. When I increase the saturation, it goes a bit darker. Okay, if I increase still more, then everything goes more and more saturated. Oh, I forgot the background plane. Okay, and the background plane as well goes more and more and more saturated. When you reach 1, then you can tend to be too much saturated. Okay, I'm gonna do this so that I have the plane in my selection easier. Okay, so this is the max saturation that you can access. And here you'll see something which might be strange to you, is that the white parts tend to colorize, and this is normal. It's because basically here you don't see it because it's almost white, but there is a color. Let's have a look at the dress. Okay, all the surfaces of the dress, and here there's a color. It's not the same, so let's put the same color for everything. Okay, and this is slightly blue, hyper slightly blue, but since you put a 100 saturation on something that's super slightly blue, it becomes dark blue. That's automatic. Okay, so up here, if you change slightly the color, now you will have totally another color for the dress. Okay, this is already well saturated. Okay, and you can of course adjust the strength of it. And here you're going to say, yes, but I'd like only the flowers to be saturated, and this is very easily done. Okay, I'm gonna select this, have a look at what map is used. Click 1, 2, 3, it's the third one. And I say that my strength must depend on this base color. Okay, and here that's not the way that I want it to use. I want that the white areas are not affected by the dials. For this, once the image is plugged, you go on Image Editor, click here, click on Image Editor, and click on Invert On. It means that the saturation modification will be applied only, okay, only where there is no white. I hope I'm a bit clear. But now that it is mapped, we can maybe increase the saturation above its maximum values, because the other patterns will tend to lower it. So I open the adjust limits. I want to be able to dial this higher, okay? The limit is changed. You can change it here, okay? But okay, it doesn't matter. And here you can go on increasing the saturation because this is mapped, okay? And you see the pattern in the front become more and more and more saturated. Well, that's all. You can map and adjust limits with this script and map directly here. Now let's change a bit the figure. I'd like a pale figure with very red lips, blue eyes, and blonde hair. Why not? So, a very pale figure. Okay, let's decrease the saturation so she's very pale with very red lips. Increase the saturation. Oh, of the lips only, please. Increase the saturation. Okay. Very pale figure, very red lips, and blonde hair. Oh, it's not gonna be easy. It's brown at the beginning. Let's see what we can do. We are going to desaturate it. Okay, it becomes gray. Increase the lightness. And how do I turn? Where is yellow in the diagram? Okay, yellow is the mix of red and green. Red and green. Okay, so we have to adjust more precisely, maybe less green. I hope that my the color diagram of my screen is well set up. Okay, she's blonde. For me, on my screen, she's blonde. Okay, it's only red-green adjustments. Okay, I don't change the blue because that was okay. I start from a desaturated base. Okay, she's blonde now with pale skin, red lips, and now let's go for blue eyes. So the eyes color will depend mainly on the irises. Okay. Change the camera because I can't access the eyes otherwise. Oh my god, I shouldn't have saturated the sclera. Up saturation of the sclera, stop. Okay, and now the irises. Take care when you select the irises, you will select the cornea. You have to go here, okay, to access them. And we're not going to saturate them, but to desaturate them. They become gray, blue. Okay. Let's increase the lightness a bit, okay, and if you like this color you can stop here, but I'd like them to be a bit more blue. Sorry. So more blue, I'm gonna add more green and more blue, so a bit more blue and a bit more green, still a bit, yeah, more, yeah, and a bit more blue. Okay, stop here. So now she's blonde, blue eyes, pale skin. And a saturated dress. Go back to our main camera. Now let's go for all the additional effects, because you are happy to have saturation, but you can have much more effects. So these effects can be accessed if you show hidden properties, okay, and you see them here, but I didn't find this handy. I prefer that you are able to see them as real visible accessible properties. So for that, in the content library, you double click on adjust limit of RGB SGLs, okay, and you click on show additional controls, okay, and now the additional controls become visible, and they consist in being able to switch from for FX1 from the saturation mode to any of these modes, and for the FX2 from the saturation mode to any of these modes. And of course, the fx1 and respectively fx2. So this mod number 1 will be associated with the strength of fx1 and with this color of layer 1. Okay, just look at the numbers. And this is the same for 2. So here it's an example of what can super easily be done. So let's have a look at the backplane, for instance. Okay, here I apply the fx1 strength at 0. This is the original backplane, and I decide to add a color yellow sub with a blue color, okay, and simply to increase the strength of this sub value. This is mod 1 with color 1 applied with this strength. Super easy. Here for the skins, a blend. So as you see, we have many blends available. For the skins, a very interesting blend is the hue. So here I take the skin Lightness surfaces and I set up. Here I have the original skin, okay, and I set up a color layer hue. Okay, this will keep the lightness and saturation as they are, but change the hue. So this way you can really super easily change the color of the skin with exactly, I would say, exactly exactly the color you want. Okay, so you see here, if you change the saturation without changing the hue, it will not change the result. If you want to lower the saturation of this, you got to say that you want to take 0 saturated color, and that you want to use this color, okay, for your saturation. So first you colorize, then you desaturate, you lower the saturation of the result. Super easy to build. The first effect is applied before the second effect. So first you set up a hue, and well, you set up the strength of this hue, but you cannot change the saturation, which depends only on the original image map. So if you want a lower saturation, you take here the saturation mode, okay, you adjust the strength, and you say that you want something not saturated. So at 100% you go back to something to black and white, at 0% to the original saturation with this color, and you can adjust this way all the levels that you want. And if you want something super saturated, here you take something with a maximum saturation. That's really easy to do. Okay, so you can set up the hue of skins like that. And for the hair, it was a bit more complicated because the hair is very dark. So if I put the hue first, I will have a very dark pink hair. That's not what I want. Oh, I don't want a blue skin either. Sorry, I want something blue. Okay. And that's why first, okay, let's remove this. First, I decrease the saturation, okay, of this of the hair, and I increase the lightness of the result. Okay, then I use the hue to change the hue of the hair. Then that's all. Without the lightness increase, we have something very dark, as you see. This is why I put the lightness to max, and you can even put it higher if you want, using the the limits adjustment to put it higher. And the same way here, I used a layer sub as for the background. Okay, but you have tons of effects. Some are more useful, just like hue, which is super important. Saturation, blend is not that much important. Multiply is not important at all. Overlay is also interesting. Average can be interesting, but sub, negation, difference will drive you to nice effects. Okay, as well as Phoenix and hard light and hard mix. Okay, the idea is try the effects yourself, okay? And remember that whenever you are not happy, okay, just have to do this and reset if you're not happy. And you come back to what you originally had, sorry. And if you're not happy with the reset, you undo the script and come back to your previous state. So if you have no more time, you can stop the video here, because I presented all I wanted to present: the rotation, how to apply the shader, the rotation, the scale, the increase, decrease saturation, as well as the use of advanced effect, and you also saw the red, green, blue and lightness adjustments. So in this case, if you're really fed up, you can leave, and I thank you for watching this presentation anyway. For the others, I'm gonna show a few more examples of what can be done, for instance, on brick walls or things like that, of other advanced effects, but this will also be pretty rapid. Anyway, for any question you have, you can just contact me on DAS forums. So now I'm just gonna give you a few examples of what can be done with this shader. So here is a plane converted. Okay, you see that it's not Iray Uber any longer, and you can play. Of course, you can desaturate it, right? Or you can saturate it. But here you see that initially the gray parts were slightly blue, and as soon as you saturate, they become much more blue. So here saturation is not super efficient. But what's interesting to do here is to show you the hue effect. Okay, so I'm gonna change for some, I don't know, pink bricks. Let's test this. I simply say that here I want to change the hue to something pink, and not too much, all right? And as you see, the gray or almost gray parts remains not saturated, and the colored parts take a new color. So another cool effect that you can have with this type of shader is the hard mix. For instance, so here I set up to hard mix. I'm gonna increase the strength of this effect, and you're going to say, oh, it's just darkening. Yes, but for the hard mix, what matters is not only the hue and saturation that you set up, but also the lightness very much. So here I'm gonna change the color, and oh wow, that's very, very different. So you just have to adjust the lightness of what you set up. And here, for instance, you have some parts which are pink, okay, and some parts which are blue. I'm gonna decrease the saturation of this, let's say 1, okay, and now the parts which were pink become white. And if I increase the lightness, I'm gonna cover wider areas. All right, that's you can really have nice things playing with hard mix, but it's more for stylized effect or specific effects. So here I have a very basic brick shader. I'm gonna show the controls of other effects, and I'll show you how we can play with the sub to give the impression that it is deeper. This is just an impression, okay? You use a colorize sub, okay, with something which is pretty dark. Oh, maybe not that much, okay, or less strong, okay. Okay, so here you see the difference between no sub, okay, and sub. It's maybe personal, but it gives me the impression that there are more shadows, real shadows, and this sub effect works with a lot of bricks or stone-like shaders. You can also use, for instance, the linear burn. Let's place it in the second slot to see if it's possible, if it will work when they accumulate linear burn with some white this time. White levels approximately here, and increase the strength of it. So you see you will tend to crush the blacks and and increase the white. See the difference? Not increase the white, but crush the darks, because I chose something white. Otherwise, you will colorize. Okay, the white parts more. But let's give it some whites up, and this tends to darken the shader, so just increase a bit the lightness. And of course, all the colors variation are okay to be used with translation and rotation. Let's say, for instance, less 20, okay, and a scale of 2, and maybe 90, because it's strange. It's strange also this way, because it was well oriented since the beginning, but you know, it works all well together. Well, I'm gonna stop this video here, but as you see, you have I think it's 27 or 28 or 26 effects to test with at any level you want and with any color you want. So you have tons of possibilities to get cool effects, weird effects, or just small effects if you want small adjustments on your shaders. Thank you for your attention, and contact me on those forums if you need if you have questions or feedback. And bye bye.